who knows something. And so I agreed to do it, and we talked and back and forth between Aaron, and we kind of morphed into this presentation.
Yes.
And this, I would like to, as Maggie's dad, get to introduce my daughter. Aaron did an excellent job of it, but Maggie Mae Ewan, I love this part because I get to be the dad that talks about this. 7-time high school state champion, state record holder in Minnesota in both the shot put and discus. I think she's 4th high school national performer in high school in the shot put. 11-time NCAA All-American, Arizona State. Imagine a parent who has a kid that achieved 1 All-American honor. My daughter's done 11. It's just, had no idea. 11-time All-American in 4 different events: hammer throw, 20-pound indoor weight throw, shot put, and discus. Crazy. 4-time national champion in 3 different events: hammer, shot put, and discus. And she held, anyway, 2 collegiate records, 1 in the shot put, 1 in the hammer. 2 collegiate records. She was a 2-time Bowerman finalist. If Maggie can't win the Bowerman with her resume, no thrower ever will. And that's all I'm going to say on that subject. She's been 3-time national champion in the shot put, 4-time world finalist, won the Diamond League in 2021, and 3rd farthest throw by an American woman all time. And she is just swinging in to the high point of her career. So there's a lot of story left to be told there. So, Maggie.
So, this very proud father has a very good resume of his own that he'll never talk about. He volunteered at St. Francis for 17 years, which has been awesome. He was very instrumental in starting kind of our middle school program, if I kind of remember that right, which was the feeder program that then allowed people like me, who was excited as like a 4th, 5th, 6th grader, to start track and field. Very instrumental in that in St. Francis. He threw at Illinois State University. He also did all 3, shot put, discus, well, I guess all 4, shot put, discus, hammer, and weight. And he was, I believe, their first All-American.
In the throws, yep.
In the throws, yep. And he All-American in the 35-pound weight throw.
Nice.
And when he was finished in college, went on to earn a master's degree at Ohio State University, where I believe he helped train the football team.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And he continued to train, again, very talented, mostly self-coached, and got himself all the way to be a finalist at the 88 Olympic trials.
Yeah, a long time ago. That was not born yet in 1988? Yeah. Hi, kids.
Yeah, so I mean, he has a tremendous resume of his own. He's an immensely humble athlete, an immensely humble coach. Feel free to ask him a lot of questions. He's going to act like he doesn't know anything, but he's a wealth of knowledge, so please.
Okay. So what our topic is going to be here, I'm going to talk a little bit about Maggie and just who she is as a discus thrower. Not so much who she is, but who she was, how she got started. Because there's Maggie, the fisherman. There's Maggie, the snowmobiler. There's Maggie, the dog owner. Maggie, the homeowner. Maggie. But we're here to talk about Maggie, the thrower. A lot going on in this young lady's life. But before I get too deeply into this, as Maggie mentioned, I've been coaching for 17 odd years in the St. Francis School District. I have been a volunteer part-time throws coach. I have never had my own program, so I don't have to deal with any of those issues, any of those problems. I got the dream job. I can blow into practice, coach a little bit, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little, and I get to blow out, and I don't have to deal with all the nuts and bolts. So it's been an awesome thing, and I have to, did Mark, you still here? Did you have to go?
He's gonna come down.
Oh, okay.
Our food came.
So Mark Hansen was the head coach at that time. I've got to give a huge shout out to that guy, because without his I'm sorry. Without him, none of this would have taken place. That's the God's honest. I also have to give a shout out to my wife for blessing my daughter with awesome genetics. None of this would have taken place. So what we're going to do, so I'm going to talk about Maggie and her past a little bit. It's a great time if you're curious about Maggie, what she was doing, what she was thinking, what her personal, what she did in college, pros, anything, nothing's off limits. As we talk about this a little bit, please ask questions. She's here to answer them. She came from Vermillion, South Dakota, drove 6 hours so she could be here. So she'd love it, and I'll be happy to answer anything too. And then we're gonna, after briefly going through that, we're gonna jump into what we were trying to do with her as a discus thrower. 15 years ago, as a couple of coaches, knowing we had somebody very special. But what were we trying to do? How we coached her in the discus, what our kind of philosophy was, and then we're going to break up her technique. We looked at a few slides. This is what she was doing. This is what we were trying to do. And then she's going to look at those same slides and apply it to her collegiate throw. What happened? What changed? How did she become who she is as a discus thrower? And that's the good part. So if you're ready to take notes, that will be the stuff you want to listen to. Because, Maggie was a 62-meter thrower. In my mind, I don't know what that 206? It's a crazy distance. And that was her worst event. But anyway, so she's been over that, and then just depending on the time, like Aaron said, we'll figure out what to do. I don't know if it's going to go fast. We're going to try and keep it brief because I know it's late in the day. And then I have an interesting thing, just a few minutes, takeaways from former athletes. We've had a couple of good throwers come through St. Francis, and I've been associated with another one that have gone on to have fine collegiate careers, or who are still in college or have jumped into the pros. And we just have a few takeaways to talk about from their high school days. So, with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Maggie, the volleyball player. Maggie primarily was a volleyball player her entire career in high school. That was her passion, that was her love. Throwing was always in the background for her. So she would, so her typical life turned out to be get up and go to play volleyball at the school, then we go to club ball, and then we do our 12 weeks of track and field, and then we do our summer volleyball camps, and then the whole cycle goes round and round again. And that's pretty much how things were back then. She had a brief stint in softball in 5th and 6th grade. Thank God that didn't take. But we wouldn't have the Maggie we have today if she would have, because the season would last. And we didn't believe in letting an athlete do 2 sports concurrently at the same time. She probably picked up a discus first when she was in 4th grade. And we'll just briefly touch on how that happened. And she probably had her first experience with some kind of organized conditioning in fourth grade at the same time. Basically, now this is her quote, listen, you know, Dad just let him know, I was just having a kid, or just having a kid, excuse me, just being a kid, just having fun. I mean, there wasn't any big, rigid, structured things going on. She was just having fun and living life as it should be lived. So the way she got into volleyball was her older sister came home one day when she was in fourth grade, and she said, Mom, I have this sheet that says volleyball. Can I do this? And that was through community education. And her mother was an outstanding volleyball player at Ohio State back in her day. So Mom was like, heck yeah, you know, you bet you can play volleyball. And we found out that the program was starved for coaches, so we ended up coaching volleyball. Well, that was the fourth grade team. At that time, Maggie was in second grade, but, you know, she kind of tagged along, and we put a jersey on her. She didn't really play much with the fourth graders, but she was always there in the background, you know, playing with the ball. What are you doing? You know, and she would be playing with volleyball, and she was like, Maggie's like, me do, right? Me do. So that's kind of how she got started in volleyball. And a similar thing happened in track and field. So her older sister came home one day when she was in sixth grade with a sheet that said, track and field. Dad, can I do this? And I was like, heck yeah, you can do that. So the same thing kind of happened. I started coaching, the program was starved. It was just a startup kind of thing. It was ran through community education. So I started coaching track a little bit. It was just a couple of days a week, very young program, and started to show my older daughter a little bit about the discus, you know. And, so we would play with that. We'd go out in the yard and mess around. And there's Maggie in the background, you know. What's big sister doing? What's going on? You know, it's me do, you know. So she probably in fourth grade, she was in fourth grade then. She had a discus in her hand. She was doing the great stuff. You know, excellent presentation by Joe Frontier on discus development, you know, with the bowling and the playing around. So that's probably the first time she ever had the discus in her hand, and she started messing with it. Bowling, you know, tossing around with Mom in the front yard. Mom was wanted to learn too, you know, just because the whole family was messing around with it. And so they spent a lot of time just dinging around. Oh, so that went on for a couple of years, you know, Maggie just in the background because she wasn't old enough to be on the team to compete. But then finally in the sixth grade, by the time she was in sixth grade, we had her standing, throwing, because it kind of, the throwing stuck with her and it didn't stick with my older daughter. She kind of went in Sprint's direction. So in the sixth grade, we snuck her into a meet at the high school, I think, and because I was officiating then. And she ended up throwing, I think, 98 feet in sixth grade with the discus. And at that time, the guy I didn't really know yet, Mark, was like, how, you know, what? And yeah, you know, so Maggie ended up getting pulled up in seventh grade to the varsity squad. She was still standing with or throwing with a standing throw. I don't remember. Do you have any idea how far you threw that seventh grade year? I think that was the next year. Anyway, so don't have that.
110.
But
110.
110? Okay, 110 is the seventh grader. It took, 120 feet to get to state. So she was close, and I remember after her seventh grade year, we said to her, you know, Maggie, once you throw 120 feet, once you qualify for state, we'll buy you throwing shoes. And her first question was, well, what's state? You know, she had, at that time, she was so young and so nice, she had no idea there was even a state track meet. And her second question was, what are throwing shoes? She had no idea that there were special shoes made for that. So she was throwing in Converse Chucks, you know, the canvas low top Converse Chucks, which actually worked great. Progressed to eighth grade, she started throwing with wheels. she started throwing the shot put. She did not like the shot put. It was, so we basically had to insist upon her that she started throwing. If she was gonna be on varsity, she wasn't gonna be one of that Maggie. She was gonna throw. And then also on the side note, once the running coach discovered that Maggie had some pretty good wheels on her, she also started running the 4x2 and 4x1 a little bit on the track. And of course, we weren't wild about that because it was taken away from throw time. But anyway, so by then, she's gone through third place in state that year, and then she starts throwing with a full throw in 9th grade. You know, so we really, you know, keeping in mind that the seasons were very short and we weren't throwing year round or anything like that, but it was still, you know, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. So it was 5 years Maggie had the discus before she even really started with the full technique. So we really kind of brought her along slow. And I have to say, if there's any takeaway from this, is that if in your school system you have a junior high program, which will support that thing as well as you can. By gosh, if you got a grade school program or something through community ed where you get the young kids into it, involved, figuring out what it is before they're 9th graders, do that. Because there's nothing like getting a hold of a kid when they're young and having all that extra time to bring them along. Okay, so now Maggie is throwing with a full throw. Let me backtrack 1 second, which I don't really have a slide about, but the vast majority of Maggie's physical training was through the high school, after school fitness program. She was never really she was never on a structured, dedicated throws kind of thing. She just went, she did the school thing. After school, when she was out of season, did you do,
Maybe one in the winter, I believe, in volleyball, and one in the summer, well, nothing was really going on.
okay, so so there was volleyball, high school volleyball, and then club ball.
Club ball
And you
winter
work out
training.
after school, and then track started, so she would do the track, lifting, put together by Hanson, which is excellent. And then it would, when summer came around, one thing we did do, she also, every year in her high school year, though, we did extend her season. She threw at the junior national meet, USA Junior Nationals every year, because as a freshman, she had thrown far enough to qualify. So she did do one more meet after the state track meet. And then once that meet came, we just kind of put it down and moved on to the next year. So what we're going to look at now is we're going to talk, now she's throwing with a full throw. So that's Maggie's life up until, you know, her 9th grade year. Does anybody have any questions about what she was, okay, we'll move along here. So when we were training her, this is kind of how we're bringing them along. This is a little bit of our philosophy of what we were thinking and about her technique, and about just the general discus technique, which kind of is carried on till today. Nothing's really changed. A lot of the pieces have improved because we've had extreme good fortune of Maggie being involved with David Dumble and Brian Blutrick, who are two of the greatest NCAA coaches. So we've learned a lot since then, and it's really gone to shape what we're doing. But back then, one of our guiding principles was getting the idea through Maggie and our kids that we are not spinning in the ring. We see the discus throw and the rotational shot put as a series of pivots and linear movements. We're not trying to develop speed in the spin, we're trying to develop linear power, even though it's a rotary looking event. We always focused on the fundamentals. We didn't sweat the details. We weren't concerned about the small stuff. We focused on like Coach Frontier was saying, we focused on the things that we think is going to get us the most bang for our buck, the most time, or the best, most distance. we could get. And that's what we focused on. One of our tenets was, let's not move along too fast. And it stands to this day, you know, don't try to start the next part of the skill until the previous one has been mastered, or not mastered, at least satisfactorily completed. And our philosophy was, let's start the throwers, we'll coach them from the front, back, and simultaneously from the back to the front. So we're teaching standing throw stuff here, and in the back we're teaching 360, proper entry, and then we hope we can make them mesh as time goes on. We focused a lot on rhythm and tempo. Again, Coach Frontier hit on all these things. So it's just fantastic. We're always slow to fast, even though it might be, for some throwers, it might be fast to faster, or slow, but it's always slow to fast. And we always focused on rhythm. In my experience, years of doing it, watching great throwers, when the best throwers, the throws always have the same rhythm. Exceptions, you can. But there's always that same rhythm. If you look at like their footwork, you get that left, right, left, right, left. The left foot in the back of the ring, left, right, left, and then if you're reversing, right. Left, right, left. Left, and if you're a non-reverser, left, right, left. Left, right, left. And it should, so we stress that. And then we learned early, you know, you've heard the paralysis by analysis. You know, again, Coach Frontier, super stuff. Don't, you know, too many cues at the same time tend to really confuse throwers, get them frustrated, they don't like it, they don't practice anymore. We had a few of those sessions where things just broke down and it didn't go well, but obviously we came back from it. So, when we coach Maggie, okay, I'm a positions guy. That's what's worked for me as a part-time throws coach, coaching high school athletes. That's all I've ever coached. I think any of our, and so my thinking is highly subjective and focused on that thing. I'm a high school guy. I'm the guy that can help maybe coach a kid to that 50 feet in the shot put, but I'm not the guy probably that's going to take them from 50 to 60 or 54 to 67. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy, you know, and that's what I try and focus on. So that's why we really stress the fundamentals. And I've come up with kind of my thing here, that there's 5 critical positions in my world that if you look at the discus throw in the ring, you can look at those positions and kind of get a pretty good idea of what's going on. Are they doing it right? And what's going on with their throw? And for me, and all those positions are completely debatable, you bet. Subjective, no doubt about it. But they've worked for us, and they've worked well. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to take a quick look at those 5 positions and how we apply them to Maggie's discus throw in high school. What they are, and then she's going to take the same position and do it again. So, all right, so if I just hit what, the big square play. So this is the Maggie's throw that we're going to look at. This is her freshman year state championship. She threw 59 feet that year. Play. Oh, there it is. Whoa. So, again. So if we break this slide down, the first critical position that we looked at for Maggie was, help me. Whoops, was the entry. Nope, there it is. I think the entry is critical in a good discus throw that it happens correctly. These were the main positions that we were looking for. Left side opens, leading with the left foot and turns to the left. right side trails behind. So, in the back of the ring, Maggie, can you see if you can emulate these positions? A little bit. Left side opens, leading with the left foot, turns to... Yeah, it's been a while. Okay, so the weight is shifted over a stacked left foot, so her foot, knee, shoulder are about the same. What we're trying to do is get the body weight over onto the left side, so the weight is shifted to the left, stacked over shoulder. And the left arm, and I think this is really, really critical, because this is something we fight all the time, is that the left arm, oh, we can use the picture of this. The left arm always on the entry stays with the left knee or actually slightly behind it. So we don't end up with that devastating over-rotation where you're leading in with your shoulder and your lower body's trying to catch up. And you can see here Maggie in this kind of position that her left arm is definitely outside this plane of her left, and that kind of continues as she goes around. But this still position kind of gives you an idea. And the right foot really comes up only when pulled off the ground. So that's kind of the tenet we use. Kids ask, well, how do I get that? When does the right foot come up? And we say just wait until your movement turning around and in pulls it off the ground. Next position, any questions? Okay. Next position is the sweep. So the sweep is as the right foot has come around, sweeps, okay, left stop, stops turning. Okay, so she's open, left foot's pointing kind of down the right-hand sector line a little bit into the direction of the throw. It stops. The trailing foot sweeps back outside the ring, keeping the weight over the left yet. And then the entry has almost kind of a side step look to it, where she's pulling like the right adductor's pulling in, but she's trying to create, well, the right leg sweeps around the left leg with the inside of the right knee instep leading in a linear direction up the right hand sector line, roughly. That's that linear out of the back. She's turned, and now it's a linear acceleration into the middle of the ring. So that's what we're trying to do. And you can still see that she's still a little bit over-rotated. Here, her shoulders are ahead, left arm's out and around, but next position, this is what we call this the transition, or might be known as better as zero support. So the right foot comes down. We want it to be pointing at 270 degrees out the side of the ring. The body's connected, meaning the shoulders, or the shoulders are on top of the hips, and the hips are kind of directly over the feet. We're not really looking for big separation here, but there is a little bit. And again, you can see, I think Maggie's just a little bit over-rotated again, and I'll explain a little bit. Where she's past that 270 point, but she always had a very good left leg, getting it up and down again.
Is 270 your aiming point there, or are you a little bit past that?
That's
for
my
right
aiming
right
point.
foot touchdown.
That's my aiming point now.
Right.
If I had it to do, or I'm sorry, no, that's my aiming point now. Then, it wasn't. That was one of those things that we did, I think, I'm not going to say wrong, but things that we do now that we wish we would have done then. And since I mentioned that, there are a few things that really don't come out in these slides that we did then that was wrong. Sorry. Well, I'm only offending myself because I was the guy that told me it's wrong. But I don't want to take away on Maggie's part of the presentation where she gets to point some of these things out. But we had some flaws with rhythm and the flow through the ring. And I'll mention this. One of the things we were teaching her back in the day was we wanted her to try and get her right foot down facing opposite the direction of the throw. So what we were kind of trying to achieve then was this kind of position when the right foot comes down, because at that time we were really trying to stress separation. So we were really trying to get that to happen. And so that was what Maggie, being the wonderful daughter, was trying to do for us. But that's not what we would do now. We want that foot at 270 with that knee high, or the left leg high and behind. The other thing I think that was big and glaring, since we were on it, is back then we were teaching that kind of Mac Wilkins-ish 9 o'clock drop, that the rhythm was down, up to the middle, down, and then up again on the finish. And I think that there's a better way to do that now too, after collaborating with Maggie and her coaches, that the movement should be just down to the middle. Because when you're driving out of the back of the ring, sorry, I'm getting instruction. Am I okay? Because when you're trying to drive out of the back of the ring, you can't pull the left foot up. If you can't get the left foot off the ground, you can't get it down in the front of the ring. So if you're, so kids are driving in and you're like, oh, get the left foot up, but I'm driving off of it, coach, and you can't pick it up. So the idea is to get off of it sooner. And if you're really aggressively driving off that left foot, trying to create that big rotation that you can't get the left foot off the ground fast enough. Yes?
When you say down, you're saying like the left arm, or is that?
Oh, I'm sorry, center gravity.
Okay.
Center gravity. You're dropping into the left as you turn and go left. Your center of gravity is dropping. But that's what they mean by down, not with the arm, but just your center of gravity.
Can you talk about your right leg? What's the coaching point with the right leg as you're driving in the middle?
I'm sorry, can you repeat
What's
that?
your coaching point with the right leg as you're driving in the middle? What are you telling your athletes?
What we teach you now as you're driving to the middle is that